Welcome to the Horror Hangout podcast, where free-bearded film fans and hatted film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time. My name is Luke Condo with Kate, and I'm joined by my regular co-host, Mr.
Ben Errington.
And semi-regular co-host, Mr.
Andy Conduit Turner. Hello, guys.
Do you prefer to be called semi-regular or irregular?
Well, I guess it depends who you're asking. A lot of people would say I'm irregular.
Yeah. Well, I'd call you a straight-up rhumbus. You look good.
Straight up rhombus. That's a compliment.
Yeah.
Not a parallelogram in the house.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's been a bit of a weird day. I'm drinking coffee. I've got a flat snowball. Because the lemonade's still flat.
Nice.
And I'm just feeling a little bit loopy. How about you guys?
What goes into a snowball? Forgive my ignorance.
Bowls. Advocat, which is like eggnoggy drink and lemonade. Yeah. Good.
Wow. You're really pushing the button. That's
a tempting choice. I might get one myself when we're done.
Very tasty. Yeah. So last week we did the 10 best of 2019. And this week we are going to do the 10 best horror movies, our favourite horror movies of the 2010s. Is that what they're called? The 10s? The 2010s?
The 10s. The 2010s, I guess. I guess if you say the 10s, It sounds a bit strange, doesn't it?
If someone says to me, I was thinking about the 10s, I'd assume they mean the 1910s. Unless they stipulate.
I'd assume they meant that. Oh, yeah, the 1910s. Great times. Yeah, everyone loved them.
Yeah. We got any news or anything? Any new trailers or anything?
We've had a couple of new trailers. So I think there was a trailer for Lock and Key, the Netflix series, obviously based on the graphic novels. Didn't know if you saw that trailer. Did you see that trailer? Anybody?
I haven't seen the trailer, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the show. I like the book.
Yeah.
Great book.
So it arrives fairly soon. It arrives on February the 7th. I thought we had a little bit longer to wait for that. So yeah, it's quite complicated if I remember right. I haven't read any of it for a little while, but yeah, be good to check that out. It's nice to see something like that get an adaptation for Netflix.
Yeah.
Which ensure a load of bloody eyes get on it.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
There was also a trailer for The Boy sequel, which has got a bit of a weird title. It's called Brahms: The Boy 2.
Is that what it's called? Brahms.
Yeah. Brahms is the name of the
boy.
Previously not titular boy, but now he is the titular boy.
Is he not grown up yet?
Okay.
Yeah,
hurry up and grow up, mate. You little dweeb.
The lad.
With your cold dead eyes.
Yeah.
I've not actually seen the first one, so has anybody seen the first one?
Yeah. You can't really talk about it without spoiling it, really. But it's good. It's all right.
It's all right, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
well, maybe I will. Maybe. Oh wait, I just started reading what I think was a spoiler then. As I was trying to sort of.
Maybe I don't need to watch it, actually.
Is it got Lauren Cohen in it from The Walking Dead? Is that her name? Lauren Cohen? Or am I thinking of a different film?
I don't know.
I don't watch enough Walking Dead, but I think
no, it has.
Yeah.
I'm just
Right.
Yeah, it's Lauren Cohen. So this one's got Katie Holmes in. What was the last thing we saw in Katie Holmes? Katie Holmes. What was the last thing you saw Katie Holmes in?
The remake of Don't Be Afraid of the Dark.
Okay.
Was that the last thing I saw?
Remake? That's weird that you bring that up.
Yeah.
So Duncan at work was talking about that today. I haven't thought about it if I've even thought about it in years. Synchronicity. Yeah, Kate Holmes, I don't know. Dawson's Creek? Something else?
Tom Cruise. Also, Alex Garland's got a new sci-fi series called Devs, which gets a premiere in March on FX/Hulu. Devs is a limited series that focuses on a young software engineer named Lily Chan, who works for Amaya, a cutting-edge tech company based in Silicon Valley. So we're not getting much about that, but I'm assuming it's going to have some sort of weird sci-fi.
I'll be there for anything that guy
terrified
touches.
Twist. Yeah? Anything he touches?
Yeah. Anything he touches turns to gold. 20 days later, what was it? Dread? The Beach. He wrote The Beach. What else has he done? Ex Machina, Annihilation. It's all good stuff.
Yeah.
He's got quite a track record. And the last confirmation I see is that the new series of What We Do in the Shadows is going to be on FX as well on Wednesday the 15th of April, so fairly soon for that. Don't know if you guys saw that series.
Yeah, I have. I watched it recently. I don't know if I talked about it last week. I can't remember.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
good,
it's really good. Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's got a lot
seriously
of lot of cameos, a lot of sort of like great performances, and it is like hilarious, and it's exactly the same quality as the film. Like
Yeah.
there's no real dipping quality, is there? So
Also, I like to see, always like to see homegrown talent doing well on like the bigger stage. Kaivan Novak,
Yeah.
Phone Jacker, Face Jacker, Natasha Dimitru from the Estate Agent. What's that thing called that you watch?
Stafflet's Flats.
Flats, and Matt Berry, who's, I mean, the fact that he's not a household name is weird. He's
Yeah.
he's amazing.
He's so good.
Yeah.
But I think that's it for horror news that I've got, unless anyone else has got anything that they've noticed or this week.
No.
Anything horrific? Horror. So obviously we got the Golden Globes and then we got BAFTA noms. So no real horror nominations. A lot of people were a bit disappointed that Lupita and Nyong'o didn't get nominated for Us in any of those categories. Any other horror performances? Maybe Florence Pugh. You know, I mean, I know she got nominated for Little Women, but her performance in Midsummer was pretty
Was that a category, was it?
damn special. What was that?
Little Women, was that a category?
Little Women. That's a category. My favourite Little Woman.
Best Little Woman, less than 5'4".
So I don't know how you feel about this. This isn't really a horror thing, but so Margot Robbie got nominated twice in the same category, Best Supporting Actress. Once for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and once for Bombshell. How do we feel about that? Do we feel like surely they could just give her one nom and bump someone else up?
Yeah, you just got to pick one.
I
You
imagine
just
so.
got to pick one, haven't you?
Yeah.
It seems kind of ridiculous. Scarlett Johansson got nominated for Best Leading Actress for Marriage Story and Best Supporting Actress for Jojo Rabbit as well. That's 2 nominations. I suppose that's different.
When I think about those 2 performances, they are both great performances, though.
And it's a different category as well, though.
Yeah.
Not like...
Yeah. I think
the
different
same one.
category, I can kind of deal with that, but the same category really does make me go, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Even if it's 2 performances that I feel like I would have liked, I just think one nomination in one category is like what do you have to do? Your gracious losing face when you win as well at the same time, because you go, well, I've won, but also me has lost. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so conflicted.
I'm now thinking, can you imagine if it was an incredible, like, well-received on all fronts movie, if Eddie Murphy could have been nominated across several categories for his role in The Nutty Professor?
One in every category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he has to put on the fat suit for one.
Yeah.
And take...
Yeah, it's interesting.
Amazing.
I liked watching Ricky Gervais's crazy monologuing thing at the start. That was always fun.
That's all I've seen from it, in all
Yeah,
honesty.
me
I think
too,
it
yeah.
overshadowed everything else from the event, right?
Yeah. So Fangoria are doing their Chainsaw Awards again. So if you wanted to vote for horror, awards, they're open at the minute. I can't remember what. Florence Pugh was lead actress nomination. I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, go check out the Chainsaw Awards.
Okay, so we've got 2020 nominees as like best wide release movie, loads of different performances.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, like, I mean, obviously Midsummer did really well, Jordan Peele's Us, but essentially they were sort of follow-ups to films that were already like massively, massively popular. And even Hereditary didn't really get much on the awards front, especially with the mainstream awards, because Toni Collette was sort of snubbed for her performance as well. Well, I say snubbed, but not nominated.
Yeah.
Snubbed always feels really... It's like you go, I'm going to nominate you, and then you go, actually, I'm not going to nominate you. I'm purposely not going to. You are snubbed.
Yeah, consider
It's like
yourself
being
snubbed.
jilted.
Literally pointing at it, like, look at him, then just go...
And now the snubbed list. Toni Collette.
Now the snub.
Yeah.
But like a load of stuff could have picked up. I'm surprised the Lighthouse didn't get any nominations. Anything? I mean, I might have got some stuff for sound or something. I'm not sure. But even like horror TV, we didn't really see much love in the Golden
Much
Globes.
recognition.
But it doesn't matter anymore, does it? It's just a bloody hand job contest, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it?
I mean, all the people in horror, this is what they're tuning into, right? To listen to who's got the nod for the decade. Horror Hangout.
Yeah.
This week.
This is the one.
This is the one.
This is officially the one. Yeah.
Jordan Peele's
this
at
is
home.
where-
He'll be home downloading this as soon as he gets the notification on his feed. Oh,
This guy's
Download
Prosecco
that.
ready.
Very good.
yeah.
One of my films better bloody be in the top 10 or I'll be on the phone.
All right, chill out, Jordan. We'll get there. We'll get to it.
Wait and see, Jordan. Be patient.
Yeah.
Luke, you frozen? Is he frozen for you, Andy, as well?
No, his eyes are moving.
I'm still here.
His eyes are moving now. I was worried
This
for
is
a
my
second.
dying
mate.
eyes.
I was worried.
They stop every now and again.
My dying eyes. Yeah, you were like this.
My Dying Eyes is also
You
my
regret-
emo hardcore album name.
My dying eyes, Luke Condor.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Has anybody seen?
yeah,
Oh,
so-
sorry, more news, is there? Wow.
There's no more news, mate.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
it. I've overdone it, have I? I've overcooked it, have I?
No, there's never too much going on. So, anybody seen anything they want to talk about? No.
Not very much horror related. Saw The Gentleman because
I did as well,
we
yeah.
were late to arrive to go and see Jojo Rabbit. Saw The Gentleman instead, but actually it was all right, you know.
I liked it. I thought it was really fun.
Oh, you've seen it as well.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
nice. I've seen a few horror things. Is that it? Sorry, Andy. I don't want to jump on
No,
your
I'm
grip.
I'm done. You go, Ben.
So I saw Psycho 2, which I've never seen before. Sometimes I sort of like flick over to the horror channel and see what's on about 9 o'clock, and sometimes there's been some pretty interesting surprises. So Psycho 2 is like kind of all right. It's not bad. I don't know. Have you guys seen Psycho 2?
I haven't.
So-
and I always hear it's
You
good.
know, I don't think I have. That's not the one
So,
where he phones into a radio show, no? Or is that 4?
No. Well, I've never seen any of the sequels before. This is the first one. This is where he gets out of prison, like 22 years later, and inexplicably just goes back to the house, like it's just left, like it would have been when he got put in jail. And it's a very strange film. Like it's not the same sort of vibes as the original at all. But there's some. It's not like unwatchable. It's pretty far fetched, which I guess kind of sounds a bit silly because of course it's far fetched. But
It's directed by
It's-
Anthony Perkins. There's the guy Norman Bates. I think.
Oh,
I
really?
said that. I might have made that up. I don't think I've made that up.
I don't know actually. No, it says Richard Franklin here.
Did he do some of the
directed-
other ones? I'm sure he.
You might have done some of the other ones, then possibly.
I'll look Google.
Anthony Perkins. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at him. See if for director. Here we go. 2 director. He directed Psycho 3,
There you go.
and it's 4 years later. Psycho 3, 4 years later, and he's got an interesting haircut. But yeah, there's some pretty good. Like it's a sequel to a classic that I kind of never really felt like I needed to watch. But yeah, it was all right. And I also saw on your recommendation, Luke, Haunt.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
On the Shudder sort of like extreme haunted house film.
What do you reckon?
I thought it was pretty enjoyable. It was
Yeah.
very formulaic. I think the ending was a bit pants.
Sometimes
The
I like
sort of final-
formulate. Like if someone's going to make me a cup of tea, I expect them to follow the formula.
Follow the formula for tea,
Maybe-
not
Yeah.
banana
Famous
and
formula.
Surprise.
I've made you
cucumber.
cup of tea, but put a little sprig of mint in there just to.
No.
You want what?
I
Yeah.
want formulaic tea and most things really, but I know what you mean. I know what you mean about haunt.
I mean, but I think it was all right. I liked there's a particular reveal, which I think was quite interesting. I like that. And the only other thing, actually,
What do you
sorry,
think
I've
to
got a
the
couple
kill
more.
scenes in Haunt?
Got all
Like the
that.
bits where people get mold and stuff. 'Cause I found them quite brutal.
Yeah, they were pretty brutal. They didn't seem too CGI. They seemed like they had some practical effects going on.
Yeah.
They were very like quick and then sort of like cut away. So this isn't a horror, but I don't know if you guys know much about the film Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler,
I've not seen
which
it
is
yet.
kind of like
I saw your reaction to it, Ben, and that's got me more interested than any poster could have.
it's like the most tightly wound film you can ever hope to watch. Like from the start, you're like, oh god, and then all the way
I
through,
love
you're
that
like,
feeling.
oh my god,
Yeah.
what's gonna happen? Oh Jesus, oh don't do that. Oh please no. Like it's just like that the whole way through, and I think it just things go from bad to like inconceivably bad
Yeah.
to more bad than you can ever imagine, and it's just.
Why do we watch those films?
just-
I really enjoy them, but
don't
why?
know.
What kind of
But
self?
Why
it's-
do you
so
put
it's-
yourself through it?
Yeah.
It was directed by the Safdie brothers who directed Good Time, and it's
Yeah.
got that same sort of vibe. It's got a very sort of like classic, sort of 80s thriller vibe, isn't it? Very, and it is a bit like that. So yeah, I do recommend that if you want an extreme emotional roller coaster.
I'm up for that. Yeah, I'm up for that.
Yeah.
Here we
And I
go.
don't know if you guys have you guys seen the BBC One adaptation of Dracula?
No, but so here's what I've heard. I've heard the first episode is fantastic. The second episode is pretty fantastic. The third episode is not fantastic. That's what I've heard.
And it ruins the other two. It's so bad.
Have you seen it, Andy?
I was on the cusp of watching it when episode 3 came out. So I might watch that tonight. Oh, maybe I won't.
Yeah. So episode 1 was like it was like good. It was respectful of the source material, but it took some like little odd and unique turns, which I quite liked. It was like a really good dark gothic horror. It felt like classic Dracula, but like the guy playing Dracula is like really charismatic, and he just brought this different edge to the character that was,
You're dancing.
you know, just something a bit different. He was dancing, he was body popping, he did a bit of break dancing.
Like Spider-Man
Cool.
3.
But the second episode was just bland. It was just dull, and the third episode was like just a really, really bad episode of Sherlock. Or as I heard someone describe the other day, they said it was like the mysteries and the twists were like out of EastEnders.
Oh dear. Okay.
So it was someone's dad.
Yeah,
I'm your
so-
dad.
It was honestly, it really did feel
Saw,
like
saw on
one of
Twitter-
the worst episodes of Sherlock.
Saw on Twitter someone said it. Dracula got a bit Phil Mitchell at times. But,
Oh no.
Phil Mitchell, yeah, maybe.
One of the Mitchells.
But so yeah, what did someone say here? Just trying to find. Yeah, he said it slouched off into a meager episode of Undead EastEnders, along with its budget. And it did feel like that. It felt like the budget in the first episode was huge, and the budget come this third episode was like, let's just do it in any old shithole. Let's just
Beastenders.
make this final.
They should do Beastenders.
Very good.
They should do Beastenders, like loads of demons and shit living
For
in London.
for a Halloween special. Have you guys ever seen the I think it's on YouTube. There was a Halloween Neighbours that they did, and it's and it's got loads of characters who are dead that have come back, and there's like a zombie infestation of Ramsey Street, and old Stingray comes back to life, and Dr. Carl Kennedy has to try and help him solve it. It's like about
I mean, it does sound fantastic.
it's worth a watch. Check it out on YouTube now.
Okay. Halloween Neighbours. Okay, I'm up for that. Anything else, Ben?
That's it. That is it.
Okay.
Yeah, then I had a rest and then went to bed.
I watched The Gentleman, which I quite liked, and I also watched Under the Silver Lake, which is directed by the guy who made It Follows. Have you watched Under the Silver Lake? Do you know much about it or anything?
No.
Okay.
No, I've seen the trailer, I believe, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. So this is a follow-up to It Follows. It's someone called it Hipster Hitchcock, and that's kind of spot on. It's like the score is still by Disasterpiece, but it's a full orchestra, and it's the score is fantastic. It's about Andrew Garfield playing a sort of stoner guy in Hollywood or in LA who sees patterns in everything. He sees conspiracies in everything, and a lot of times, like, there's obviously we're led to believe there's obviously nothing there, but he's seeing something there, and he's sort of piecing together this weird undercurrent of stuff happening in LA. It's way, way more bizarre than what the trailers have made it out to be. It's insane. Like, there's some amazing moments in it. It's 2.5 hours long, though. It's about 40 minutes too long, and it gets a bit boring at times. But if they cut out half an hour from the running time, it would be fantastic. Like, it would be fucking amazing. Because some of the scenes in it are just worth... I mean, just worth watching. Also, it's got Topher Grace in it. And Topher Grace is pretty good in it. Eric Foreman from that 70s show. But yeah, it's just great. It is really good. It's a really good film. I would just warn you that it's a bit long going, but it's the music's great, the acting's great. The horror elements are really good, and just the sort of the what the fuckness of it is up there.
Sweet.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it does sound good. I think I wanted
Under
to
the
check it
Silver
out
Lake.
when I saw it was released.
I've noticed again that some people hate it, but some people love it. So it's just one of them. What?
Uh, yeah. Was there anything else, Lucas?
No, that's it for me. Jojo Rabbit, but that's not really a horror. Although there is a pretty horrific scene in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that though. I thought it was pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, it's
The
great.
film, not the horrific
I
scene.
love that horrific
so-
bit. The rest of it, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
Okay, horror movies then. Horror movies of the decade. The 2010s, not the 1910s. You idiots.
Bloody hell, grow up, mate.
Who wants to take the first nugget?
Should we let Mr. Irregular himself take the first nugget?
Yeah.
I'll do it in irregular order. So starting with number 4. No. I'll begin. Are we going to do like we did last time? And if we have anything that anyone else has got, we'll just all hop in and talk about it then.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So in that case, I shall begin with my number 10. Going through the decade, I began with The Woman in Black was my number 10. I saw the stage play. I think after I saw the movie, it doesn't quite beat the stage play because I think that's quite a unique experience in itself. But it was on TV over Christmas. I think my family were watching it on, might have even been like Christmas Day or Boxing Day. Jolly Turner family get together. Watching a program about ghosties that get rid of people, and actually there were some very atmospheric moments. There are some bits that maybe don't pan out all the way, but there are some horrific scenes out on the moors. The location works really good. It's nice to see Daniel Radcliffe doing, really coming out of that role that defined his career so early on and doing something a little different. Have either of you guys seen it?
Yeah, I went to the cinema to see it when it first came out. I haven't seen it since then, though, and I haven't really thought about it, but I remember thinking it was pretty effective.
Yeah, maybe it's because I've seen it recently. It just sprung to the top of my mind when I was doing the list. But there are some great scenes, and it's nice to get into. I guess it's not quite gothic horror in terms of the period, but like nice to look at some of that period horror stuff. The foggy streets of some coastal town and stuff as well. It's got some great scene work, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. I don't think I've not seen it brought up much, and it probably should be.
My mum's is a huge fan of this film. She's always going on about it. You done The Woman in Black on your podcast yet? It's the best one. I go, oh, come on. But yeah, I've got quite fond memories of it as well. I've only seen it once, I believe, but I remember it being pretty creepy, and it's quite a effective little ghost story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how it would, how it would compare to the play. And like I say, if you get a chance to see the stage version, get a bit of culture, then it's really good. It's not exactly the same as it is on stage. It's framed where someone is retelling the story, but there are some really spooky moments in it, and I think jump scares. They're not all jump scares that are a bit cheap, but there's some real good tension building as we go through the sort of the haunted house aesthetic as well. When he's doing all that paperwork.
I remember really enjoying the mud stuff. Some creepy stuff in the mud.
Getting the carriage out of the mud and yeah.
Cool. Right, Ben.
So there we go, number 10.
Good number 10. Shall I do a number 10, Luke?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on then, mate. So polite. So number 10, I've gone for It Chapter 1. Because bloody hell, mate! Oh, bloody hell, you dirty bastard! That's right, talk dirty to me. Just because I think it captured like a great sort of moment. I think a good couple of years where we got some decent Stephen King content, didn't we? And it just kind of brought like the scariness of clowns to the forefront again. Not that we really needed it, but it really did. And a lot of people looked fondly upon the sort of mini-series, and it kind of made a lot of people want to revisit the mini-series as well. This blows that out of the water. This is like the best adaptation of that half of the book, even though I know in chronological order it's not like half. It's obviously sequential throughout it. But I think it captured the book and those characters in ways that I never quite expected, and it included stuff from the book as well that I'd never have really expected. I think it's like a really, really good adaptation, and like probably one of the best Stephen King. I know last week, Luke, you said that Doctor Sleep was possibly one of the best Stephen King adaptations. I think if that's the best Stephen King adaptation, I think this is the best adaptation of Stephen King's work.
Yeah.
Just about, I'd say.
Yeah.
Just about. I think it does. Unfortunately, Chapter 2 didn't quite reach those heights. I feel like it was a bit over. It was a bit bloated. It was a bit. Yeah, it kind of. But then I'm glad we got to have this sort of like contained story of just the kids. I feel like if they tried to make one film with both of those things, like a supercut, I don't think it would have worked quite as well. But this one, it kind of really captured a lot of things, didn't it? It captured like Stand By Me, Goonies, those sort of classic 80s ragtag group of kids.
Yeah.
Fighting a interdimensional.
Also,
clown
I mean,
beast.
Pennywise. This version of Pennywise is well and truly in the zeitgeist of, popular culture, and I think people young kids growing up watching horror movies now, might see Pennywise in the way that we saw Freddy Krueger growing up, where we just thought the idea of him was scary and funny and weird, and maybe some people aren't going to watch it because they're scared because they've seen pictures of him, like I did with Freddy when I was growing up. And they'll get around to watching it. It'll just be one of those films that they'll love. I mean, it'd be weird to see if they did another sequel to sort of try and keep it going.
Because they are talking about it, well, there's rumours, right?
Oh, really? I wasn't 100% sure on that.
I'm not sure if
rumors?
it's official. I don't think it's official, like, studio rumours or, people whacking onto people's CVs or anything like that. I think it's literally just fans are talking about, oh, you could do another one and this is how you would do it. And I can imagine that if people keep talking about it along, people will get the sniff of money, and who knows if they do it or not. But I agree with Luke that I think they've made such an iconic look to the character that it's going to be things that people know about, even if they've not seen the movie. It starts to penetrate just the sort of pop culture consciousness. You can imagine him being in the background of the quiz of the year of like just an image from the year. I can tell you honestly, I think I maybe overlooked this when I wrote my list. There's no time to change anything now; it's too late. But yeah, I agree with you, Ben. It's a fantastic horror movie and a great adaptation. I had a big fondness for the TV miniseries and Tim Curry as Pennywise, but I think whichever of the Skarsgård brothers it is has done a fantastic job of really bringing that character to life and making it his own, not just doing an impression.
Oh yeah, it's a completely unique, take on the character, and arguably, even though Tim Curry obviously is an absolute legend in his take on Pennywise, I think this one is gonna be the one that kind of lives longer in sort of pop culture. But then I guess you got two movies to do it. Yeah, it was a shame in the second one that Pennywise as a threat didn't kind of feel like as terrifying as he did in the first film. But yeah, an iconic horror movie villain. It would be nice to see him in another film, but they've kind of told the story now, haven't they? So they don't really need any more. Did any of you guys have that? Oh well, I know Andy, you said you didn't. Luke, is that in your top 10 at all?
No. Again, I kind of feel like I maybe overlooked that one.
I think that's something probably need to say, is that it's going to be very easy to have overlooked a lot of stuff because a decade is it's such a massive length of time to sort of take in, and there are some films that are released in like 2010, 2011 that I was like, God, have I seen that or what? It was a bit strange. So yeah. Okay, cool. Luke.
Okay, my number 10 is Jordan Peele's Get Out. Get Out. I mean, you can't watch it and not understand that it's just a great, entertaining horror movie in itself. Just really well directed. The music's great. The sunken place, the special effects is all really great. But it's also just a really fresh perspective on horror that weirdly feels like it should have always been there. But Jordan Peele just like slotted in perfectly. It's just a great horror movie, and it's entertaining. I kind of like the because the original ending was that he would do all this stuff, and then the police turned up, and he'd get arrested that was Jordan Peele's original ending. Like he would get arrested for the.
I kind of thought
Killing.
that was what was going to happen.
I thought
when
that was
police
going.
car
I thought it was
turned up.
coming.
Yeah. And then apparently Jason Blum said you can't do that to the hero after he's gone through all this. So then he changed it to the friend, which does work. I mean, it's a fantastic ending. But I don't know, something about me enjoys a good bleak ending. So I would have gone for that one. But it's just a great film. I would show this horror movie if you had to show any sort of casual movie fan who had said I don't know about horror movies. I've never really got into them. This is one of the films I would show them and say this is how fun and interesting and fresh and relevant horror movies can be.
I think it's because it transcends horror and thriller and drama and social commentary and you know all these different things rolled into one, as well as being a really effective horror film.
It's got influences from Hitchcock, and then it's also got the Black Mirror style stuff thrown in there. I don't know. It's just a perfect horror movie for these times. Go on, Ben.
And considering it was his first film, that's quite an achievement. So I'll just say Get Out is my number 6 on my top 10 list.
How entertaining. It's my number 6 as well,
Ben.
Ben.
Mate.
Whew.
Is it?
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that. Same wavelength, mate.
Nothing else to say. It's great. It's really, really well done.
Cool. What about your number 9, Andy?
Right. Let me just see what I've got here. I have to consult my paperwork. For my number 9, I have gone for. I think you guys have seen this. Creep. Mark Duplat's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're probably going to find as we go through. Maybe I'll have missed some huge absolute sitters, because as I was looking through the list, I was on Letterboxd scrolling through horror movies that had come out in the last 10 years, and I think as soon as I saw certain titles coming, I was like, oh yeah. I think the ones I've really gone for is things that when I saw, I thought, yeah, I'd get back and watch that again right now if I wasn't.
Yeah.
If I had all day, I'd sit and watch all these. And Creep was one of those that has really stuck with us, and I know that I've recommended it to other people as we've gone through the year and told people they need to sit down and watch it. The follow up to it was also really enjoyable, but I think the first one just edged it just for there's a great feel of unease about the whole thing from the very, very start, and the sort of talking head moments he's having with the guy when he's interviewing them, and the feeling of dread and how sinister it is builds up and up and up through that early stage to when you see him subtly hiding his keys, and then he gets his keys back, and then he's at the bottom of the stairs in the mask, and then spoilers, I guess, when he gets home as well, and that next bit where he's creeping around the house and the ending itself.
That final shot will stick with me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so smartly done, and it's never over the top. There's very little, screaming and running and terror. It's quite gentle in its pacing overall, but there's some great out of point of view shots. There's some fantastic, really creeping horror, and it's just a weird guy, right? So that could happen, and I imagine it does happen to people all the time across the world. You just meet an old character and then just get a little bit of discomfort. Sorry,
what did you think of the sequel?
I liked it. The sequel. Yeah, I liked it as well. Not quite as much as this, because I think it had some of the feelings about it, and some of the moments were done first in this one. I think we literally watched them back to back. I think we watched the first and rolled straight into the second, and they sit very well to watch them together like that. But I think the tension is just that much greater. I think having seen the first one, you can sort of smile and enjoy along with the character a little bit more in the second. It hasn't got that unease about it as much.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it was a very creepy watch, definitely.
That's another one where Jason Blum changed it. I heard that it wasn't even a horror movie when they first started making it. They were just making this sort of weird things. Then two people, that Patrick Price guy making it with him. And then I think they sent it to Blumhouse and they said, you should make this into more of a horror film. And they changed some bits and pieces, I guess. Yeah, it's good. I like it.
He's got those ideas. And then is another one coming? Is it still on the slate?
I have no idea, to be honest.
I don't know, actually. No, not sure.
Ben, number 9.
Okay, my number 9 is I Saw the Devil. So the Korean cat and mouse horror thriller starring Choi Min-sik, who is Old Boy. And this is just like really, really brutal. Don't know if have you guys seen this?
Yeah.
Potentially. Yeah. It's just really, really like brutal, and it just keeps getting sort of worse. And Choi Min-sik is like the worst kind of guy. He's like a serial killer. He kills a young woman who is possibly married or maybe engaged to like a police officer, or a police officer slash sort of like CIA, whatever the equivalent in Korea of CIA is.
It's like a super police
agent.
officer, right?
Yeah, he's like a super police officer, and he decides to track the murderer down, and it's just like really brutal game of cat and mouse where he sort of catches and releases him over and over again in order to sort of inflict the most amount of torture on him. And I guess the sort of overarching question is, who's really the psychopath, eh? Is it this serial killer? Is it this police officer who won't just let him die? And yeah, I've seen it a few times. I've seen it maybe 3 times since it was released, and it's always a film that it's quite a slog. I think it's like approaching 2.5 hours, but I just thought it was absolutely brutal. There's some really great imagery, and I think there's something. I've got another Korean film in my honourable mentions, but there's just something about sort of the Korean suburbs and sort of these really dark, dank areas of Korea, which do really lend themselves well to sort of horror and sort of scary stuff like this. So I thought I had to include that.
Nice. That's a good. It's not on my list. My number 9 is It Follows. Probably a bit of an obvious one, I think, maybe. But for good reason. It's just a really great, interesting new idea for a horror movie that maybe doesn't follow its logic all the way to the end, but it's genuinely creepy. The most fun you'll have looking at sort of a screen where you know that the villain isn't there, but you're still looking at every little pixel to try and see something moving, to try and find. It's like a constant horror Where's Wally game, constantly looking for him. And it's just great. I mean, this even the opening scene. You see that girl. She's running away. She doesn't know what she's looking at. She's running around the camera, and the camera's circling around her. And then it just cuts to her absolutely mangled body on the beach. Just like such a killer opening shot. And the soundtrack, Disasterpiece. I still listen to that to this day.
Yeah,
just a great soundtrack. I don't know what to say about it really. I mean, it's again, I guess I've seen this movie a few times and I've enjoyed it pretty much every time.
Yeah, I've seen it a few times as well. It's on my list. It's my number 4. I've got a really sort of quite a place in my heart for this film. Whereas when I first saw it, I was a bit like, I don't really know. Like for me, it feels like a bit of a kind of a ridiculous, lame concept that shouldn't work. It really shouldn't work, but it just does. It just hits every single possible. It's creepy. It's got some really creepy sort of like moments and reveals, and the fact that this being or whatever it is embodies sort of everyone and anyone is crazy. And the fact when you really start to think about it, it makes you think as well. You know, when films make you go, well, what would you do? What would you do in this scenario? Yeah. And you go, well, I'll get straight down. I'll be so. I mean, again, it is essentially transmitted sexually as well, isn't it? So
just never have sex is the plan.
Just never have sex. Yeah, but this is the thing. You start thinking about the details of it. It's like, well, if somebody is killed, that it was following, then it's on to you next. It kind of like you're never free of it. You're never ever free of it. I've never had sex, all right? That's what I'd do. It'd be coming towards me, and I'd stop it. I'd go, stop! I've never even had sex. And they go, sorry, got misunderstanding. This is a great film, and I think the soundtrack really lends just some of the best creepy vibes to it.
Yeah.
And for all the reasons you guys have explained, it was my number 5. And
I think I've gone in too hot with some of these. Mine it's your list. Yeah.
Warms my heart a little bit. It was the first episode I recorded with you guys as well.
Yeah, okay.
So precious memories.
There we go. Precious, precious memories indeed. For that reason, it's my number one, all right?
Yeah, it's,
what number did you say it was? Number 5.
Number 5 for me, and this it was 4 for you, right, Ben?
Number 4 for me. Yeah. There was, to be fair, like a few on this list. Like I could probably switch order and not really worry about it too much. But this was one I felt like I needed to get quite high.
Yeah.
Same for me. I think my order here is really pretty arbitrary. You could be in the mood for any number of them on the day that you sat down to watch a movie. But I think it's definitely worth a mention. I think it's so well made and it's so different to some of the others tonally. And as Luke says, there's all those little moments. Some great little visual bits like the concertina girl at the beginning and the tall man who just that scene particularly, the one that sticks in the eyes, is when they open that door and that big old tall man just
follows that one girl behind. Yeah, so good.
You're just as the audience, your immediate reaction to that is like which is always great to feel, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, Andy, number 8.
Number 8. So for number 8, I have for us a remake. Is it the only remake on my list? I do not know. I haven't checked. But I've gone for the remake of a favourite of all of us, I know, The Thing.
Oh, very interesting.
A remake of The Thing. So this is a difficult one.
Wait, are we talking about the sequel thing with?
Yes,
it's kind of like a prequel.
It is a prequel,
but it's essentially a remake because it's like every beat is pretty much exactly the same, isn't it?
Yeah. I went in skeptical. I wasn't sure what to expect of it. Like, it came at a time when I think we were all pretty brutal on things that were perceived as remakes. But actually, there are some great moments in The Thing. Like, I would have loved to have seen it with all the original practical effects that they planned. But actually, even with the CGI that was inserted, particularly think back to that scene in the kitchen where that lady sort of bends over backwards and then is chasing them through those sort of high, those high things. There are some great, terrifying moments, and the body horror elements of The Thing are surpassed by few horror movies, I think, whether you're CGI or practical. And it's a genuinely terrifying concept, right? That you could encounter something that slowly but surely is gonna, like, people who you think you can trust. I think the paranoia and the fear and the mystery is still translated very well into that remake. And I've seen it a number of times, not for a few years now, but as I was scrolling through the list and I saw it on there and I thought,
that's an interesting one.
Go for a little taste of that again. Yeah, I've probably gone for some really bizarre picks, guys, and it'll turn out at the end of this.
I like the out of left field one.
This.
Yeah. By the way, the faces that stitch together in that scene, you know, he's like the thing just presses its face to him, and then it sort of melts into him. Yeah, it's great. That's fantastic.
I think, I do like that film and I do enjoy it, but I think probably one of the reasons I don't rate it as highly as I would if it was just a film on its own is because it just feels so familiar and so many of the beats feel the same. But I agree with you. Like, a lot of the body horror stuff is great. CGI, I don't think it's perfect, but I think it kind of does the job. There's some good sort of characters in it, and it's just nice to be back in that. Well, I say nice, but you know what I mean. It's fun to be back in. This is nice, isn't it? Having a bloody thing running around, turning into people.
Also,
very lovely,
Mary
mate.
Elizabeth Winstead. It's always good. I think she's fantastic, and it's good to get her a mention.
And also, how satisfying is it when the film ends exactly how the original begins?
That's a good moment. That is a good moment.
That's so nicely done.
That's satisfying.
Yeah,
that is satisfying.
They slot together like jigsaw pieces.
Ooh, and then you go, get a bloody original on right now. Slot it right in. Let's watch it.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure as well that it's not just the ending, right? Does it does it map out? So when
I think so.
in
All the dead
the
things.
thing, like if they go back,
Yeah.
the dead things match with the things that they find when they go there. So
And there's an axe
so
in the wall, I
nicely done.
think, or there's like there's some weapons or something laid out where they're left in this version. Yeah, I think it all works together. Good.
So that's what I like. It's nice, thoughtful
Horror
filmmaking. Yeah.
Considered filmmaking. Yeah, it's good. Ben, your time has come.
Okay, so for my number 8, I've gone for Under the Skin, which we discussed on an episode only recently.
This is a
Just
diverse
when I was
list
sort of
that we're making here. I feel like we're
Yeah,
making
it's very
waves.
diverse, isn't it? So yeah, a great sort of like science fiction, slow burning horror film, and just from watching it again, when we watched it recently for the podcast, that was maybe like the third time I'd seen it. It's just so unnerving, and it's got some really great visuals that I think are some of the like really iconic sci-fi visuals, and I think it's a great performance from Scarlett Johansson as well, and it kind of made me want to go and read the book again, because the book is a very different sort of take on the same story, and very unique. So I wanted to go back and check it out. But yeah, it's a really, really good film, and it's always one that I kind of recommend to people. And
So you
a few
recommend it
people
to
I've recommended it to.
I don't know if I'd recommend it to anyone. 'Cause it's
See, that's
just-
the thing. I'll definitely recommend it to. I can remember recommending it to at least one person, and they've gone, "That was absolutely awful." But I kind of got like a quiet satisfaction from that.
Oh, you didn't like it,
I just go,
you idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 hours of your life wasted. They belong to me now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the soundtrack's really like creepy, unnerving, crawly. It really gets under your skin. See what I did there?
It's weird, isn't it? Because it kind
so
of
yeah.
marries like the sort of Kubrickian elements with like natural, unscripted, improv type scenes. It works
and
really well
It
together.
reminded me of. So when you mentioned Annihilation before, I wasn't particularly into Annihilation. I thought it was all right. Again, looked really nice, had some great visuals, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff in that kind of reminded me of this, and it felt like this was like the pure version of like some ideas which were explored in that film. But yeah, super creepy. It's just like the unknown, isn't it? It's just like we don't really find out that much about what she is, what her purpose is, and what she's doing here, how she got here. So I think it's that unknown which kind of makes it creepy. Yeah, but I love it.
It's a good one, man. My number 8 is probably going to be elsewhere on the list, I imagine, is Ari Aster's Hereditary, which was maybe my favourite horror film from a couple of years ago. Just, I don't know, really, really terrifying and funny, and just sort of an insane movie when we think about that first head-lopping bit to it. I don't know. I feel like this is just a great. Out of most horror movies you see, not many really stick with you and sort of enter your dreams and stuff. But this one really does. It really gets under your skin, and it's. I just think about like the screams when Thingy just goes to bed. I can't remember his name now. The boy, after he gets home after the accident, he just goes straight to bed, and he just hears his mum screams the next morning. It's just so many like good little moments, and like I talk about it all the time, but. Horror movies always do that thing where is there something in the shadows or isn't there? And this is one I've genuinely been staring at the screen, looking at the shape and thinking, is that thing or is it a naked old person? I'm not too sure. But it just absolutely nails it. It's just, I think, a really fantastic. I guess all these films that I'm talking about have been debuts. Yeah, so far, yeah. I like debuts. I hate follow-ups.
Oh, absolutely hate follow-ups. I've also included Hereditary on my list. It's number 2 on my list. So right up there. Because I really enjoyed it the first time, but then when I sort of rewatched it, it just really, really sort of cemented itself as one of my favourites, just because of absolutely everything, really.
It's a good film.
It is just, it's a riot, and it is genuinely like horrific. Yeah, that particular moment about someone losing their head. Like, I can't remember the last time I watched a film at the cinema, and I was like, I was speechless, but also looking around at everybody else, like going,
you should be speechless the entire way through.
Yeah, it should. I was chatting the whole way through. Right? I was going, "What's this? This film's quality." Yeah, come on, woo, cheering, chugging a beer, and then when that happened, I was
silent.
Everyone else was like, "Finally, thank fuck."
Finally, he's dead, and then someone locked my head off. Terrible.
Yeah.
I suspect it's only not on my list because I still haven't got around to watching the fucker. But I will. It's on a DVD case. It's on my shelf right now. It's just you got to go over to the cabinet and open it and put it in the old Xbox there.
I think you'd be very happy with yourself when you do finally do it.
I will. I'm going to treat myself. Maybe when I've successfully done something good enough and I feel like I'm ready for a reward.
Yeah,
that's it. But I think one of the challenges is that I know that it's a horror movie that will disturb my long-suffering wife. Like,
oh yeah,
so it's not one that we're going to be able to watch together. So it's always a bit of a struggle to find that time with. Do you want to go away and do something else so I can watch this film that you won't like? But
I always say it's for the podcast. I've got to watch it. So
it's work technically.
It's good. Yeah. Andy, did you say it was on your list?
No, I said it would be.
Right.
Having heard you guys talk about it and knowing so much about it,
sorry, I missed that when you
I
said
imagine
that.
it would make it, but not watched it yet. But I know its quality is highly spoken of.
Cool.
Yeah, man, you definitely got to watch it. It's like, I mean, you've seen Midsummer, haven't you?
I have.
Yeah, so I think if you see Midsummer, you kind of like it would be a great double bill. I mean, you probably wouldn't be able to sleep or any
function, or speak.
You're able to function for a few days.
You're double speechless.
Yeah. Double speechless. That's a good way to be.
You're actually making the surroundings around you more quiet because you're doubly speechless.
Yeah.
Like a vacuum.
Yeah. Exactly.
Ben.
Whose turn is it?
Your turn.
Andy's. Is that Andy?
Oh no.
My turn.
Have I skipped Andy?
Back to me, is it?
Yeah.
Where are we then? So
number 7. No, number 7. Yeah.
Number 7. Where are we? We're sticking with an actress that appeared in my previous pick for another outing. So my next pick for number 7, 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Interesting.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Again, I think when we go through these, I'm immediately drawn to what people might criticize them for, and I know that there's some criticism that this becomes a weird sci-fi movie in the last.
I've never heard anyone criticize that bit. I think that makes the film, that elevates the film.
I liked it. I liked it certainly, but again, maybe come first to my films of the year where I've gone for the more light-hearted stuff. What I seem to be going at here is just incredible tension, and immediately it comes to me a few scenes. Like, I think the scene that really sticks with me, probably even more so than that poor guy getting shoved into a bucket of acid, is the bit where they're playing, like, not charades, but they're playing some type of party game where they're trying to work out. It's like, oh, he sees you, he knows what you're up to, and you can't do it, and and it's an incredibly tense moment because the two characters are trying to get away with something behind John Goodman's back, and they're so worried that he's onto him, and there's such a paranoia about it, and there's those other great scenes like that lady that's at the door to the bunker that's trying to get in, and again the claustrophobia from being such a close quarters, very limited number of sets. I can't get enough of it, and it's very, very well done.
Yeah.
It's my number 7 as well, Andy.
Oh wow!
So when I was making my sort of like top 100 films of the decade, this was one that you actually mentioned that made me remember it, because it wasn't that I'd like forgotten it. It was just one I managed to sort of overlook, and I just remembered it. It was a film that I kind of went in with like zero expectations, because I never really liked Cloverfield so much. And do you remember that? What was the other weird Cloverfield thing that came out? What was that called?
Cloverfield Paradox.
Cloverfield Paradox, yeah. Where that guy's full of worms.
Was that after this, right?
That's after,
I think it was after,
right?
It
the
was
Cloverfield
absolutely,
Paradox was the one that was it was like the shadow drop on Netflix, wasn't it? It was like, look at this trailer and it's out now.
Now, yeah, that's right. But yeah, I thought this was a great sort of, again, horror movie, yes, but a great thriller, sort of set in one location. Obviously, there was more locations elsewhere, but John Goodman, like absolute powerhouse in this film. I think everyone was great, but yeah, John Goodman was a powerhouse, and sort of it was good to see him excel in such a role.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. I think I was going to put it in my honourable mentions, but I didn't. So I don't know why. My number 7 is not going to be on anyone else's lists, I don't believe, and it's also a bit of a cheat, but it's stuck with me. VHS 1 and VHS 2. These are dirty little anthology horror movies that not all the segments of these films are that great, but there's certain segments in each one that will really stick with you. Are really gross in places, are really horrific and horrendous in places. This one of the segments in VHS 2, the short film done by Gareth Edwards, is one of my favourite horror movies of all time. It's insane. It's like 10 minutes long, and it's absolutely brutal. Just goes to some really weird places. It's really fun. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it introduces a lot of filmmakers who've gone on to do great stuff. The guy who did The Ritual, has got a short film in this. Radio Silence, the guys who did Ready or Not, I think they've got a film in one of these as well. I don't know, just really fantastic. In my opinion, the best anthology horror of this decade. I can't think of any other anthology horror, even TV shows that have, I'm not including Black Mirror in this, but that have really, I don't know, stuck with me. And when I wasn't watching too many horror movies, these were the kind of things that I randomly put on late at night and really enjoyed and felt like this is what I want from horror, something that I'm not too sure if I'm going to like it, and ended up really enjoying it. Yeah, both of them.
I've not seen VHS 2.
Good choice.
VHS 1, I think I've seen. There's like a vampire lady, and there's
like
the sort of there's the glitchy man in the forest.
Yeah, that one's not a good one. But this.
What else? I remember really enjoying it, but it's been so long. I think I saw it not too long after its first release.
Yeah, some great ones in there.
Yeah, I think I've only seen the first VHS as well. Yeah. The Gareth Edwards one. You said VHS 2.
Yeah. That one. Gareth Edwards is the Raid guy, right? So I get him and the Gareth who made Rogue One mixed up sometimes. The two Gareths.
The two. The two Gareths.
Whichever one made
Gareth,
the Raid.
Which one made?
He made this one, and it's got that similar insane kinetic energy that he did in the Raid films.
Okay, so there's Gareth Edwards who did like Rogue One, Monsters, and
not Gareth Edwards.
Evans
and
Godzilla. Gareth Evans.
Yeah. Okay. How am I going to get that? Gareth Edwards, Gareth Evans, Gareth Evans. There's too many.
Yes, Gareth Evans. So there's
yeah.
a Gareth Evans and a Gareth Edwards. Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? To be fair, when you said you got them mixed up, I think they just merged into one in my head as well.
Yeah.
Good on you, Gareth.
Come on, Gareth Ease.
Well, so are they in your lists? Probably near the top.
Up, mate.
I'd say a bit of an oversight from us, because like I agree with you. I think it's definitely worth mentioning because they are fantastic anthology films, and I think the anthology itself as a format gets overlooked often. I'm glad to see it make a return in recent years with all of the
TV shows.
All of the TV shows making a comeback, because obviously there's the Twilight Zone. Is Creepshow back officially now? Is it on Shudder?
Yeah, it's on Shudder. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to see all those things back. So yeah, more power to you, VHS. Thank you for your service.
Number 6, Mr. Andy Conduit Turner.
Number 6. Well, oh wait, sorry. Yes, Andy.
Now
I'm confused by that.
Hang on, didn't you just say VHS? Isn't it Ben's go? Ben's go for 7.
No, it's the other way around.
I think it is. I did so. 7. My 7 was 10 Cloverfield Lane. So now it's 6.
Yeah,
and
the
for
same 7. So hang on. Let's make this. So my 6 was, we did my 6 earlier on because that was Get Out, and then we had It Follows. That was my number 5. So we're on to my number.
Oh, do you
4.
want to hold on then? Is that how we're going to work it?
Yeah. I think we better do it like that. So my number 6.
Otherwise, you're going to be
was
doing
Get
your
Out
number
as well.
1 when we're doing our.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my number 6 is
I'll
Get
sit
Out.
out.
So
Yeah.
Your number 6 is Get Out. My number 6, again, hasn't been mentioned, probably won't be mentioned. But in terms of bone gripping, skin ripping, you can't look away. In the similar sense, I imagine, to Uncut Gems, but this has got to be more brutal, is Green Room, which is the most tense experience I've had watching a film in a long time. And I still think that the Anton Yelchin, it's good to get him in this list anyway, but the scene with him sticking his arm through the door,
Oh yes.
Jesus Christ, that's never ever going to forget that moment.
It would be on my honourable mentions. Like, it was incredible. The exact scene that you mentioned. I'll just add there quickly. I watched it on a plane, and I was still as gripped by it and as horrified by it as if I was in the cinema. I'm sitting there on a flight on my own. Strangers would be like, "Oh!" wincing away from the screen as this terrible events unfolded.
Yeah, it's good. Ben, is it not on your list there? I noticed.
no, not on my list. I might need to give it a rewatch because when I saw it, which was probably around about the time of release, it was 2015, wasn't it? I enjoyed it, but I wasn't like blown away by it. One thing I've kind of recently noticed is that the director, Jeremy Saulnier, he did Hold the Dark in 2018, but we haven't seen it. I don't know if he's making anything else.
I think he will be. We did Blue Ruin and then Green Room and then Hold the Dark.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to his
I did
next colour film, whatever that is, because I like those films he
Blue
does.
Ruin.
Yeah.
Nice. So that was your number 6.
That was my number 6, yeah. Andy's number 5 is something.
Yeah, my number 5 was It Follows.
Right, okay. Back round to Ben.
Okay, cool. So my number 5 is The Witch.
Ooh,
Which...
Johnny
mama.
Bravo.
So this is like just a film that kind of I've returned to a couple of times since its release in 2015. Robert Eggers movie, and it is just like insane. It's so stylish. The fact that it takes place in 1630s New England, it's just so bleak, hopeless, horrible, and I think it's just genuinely creepy and unnerving, and it gives me the same kind of vibe that like the Blair Witch Project did back in the day. Not just obviously because of there's the fact that there's a witch in the title and both in the film, but it just gives me that sort of, it's just the unknown of the trees and the forest and just not knowing what's lurking in there, and it's a really unsettling experience. I don't know if you guys have got this in your lists at all.
It's not, and it probably should be in at least the honourable mentions in terms of the dedication to the kind of film it is, because it really just goes all the way with it. It's not an enjoyable watch. It's quite a gritty, grueling.
Yeah, as I said, it's very, very bleak, and it is upsetting, really.
It upset me. Yeah,
it's a freaky. It really freaks you out. Andy, have you got this on your list as well?
I haven't, but same as I can recognise why it would be such a high pick. Like, it is a very affecting film. Do you find, like, Ben, with films like this as well, it kind of it comes back to you when you're in a location like that? Obviously, we have forests like that in this country. You go out for a nice country walk with your partner or whatever, and it's like, should we go for a nice walk in this sort of autumnal sort of situation? Just concrete over, mate. Concrete over.
Pave the world.
Just concrete over, mate. Make a big bloody car park.
That'd be nice here in Asda. Massive Asda.
Also, I love those films where it's on the knife edge of, is it supernatural or is it not? And then right at the end, right at the last scene, or like the last sort of 2 minutes, it sort of pushes back over into the sort of the supernatural or the weird. I just love films that do that. Like Safety Not Guaranteed
Yeah,
has
it's a
a
really
bit of that sort
again
of thing.
even though it's like only 90 minutes long, it's still like it is a real slow burn. Like you don't really know what's happening and what's going to happen. It's just really as I said, unsettling. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, what are we on? 5. Okay. My number 5 again will not be on anyone else's lists. I don't think so. But it introduced me to maybe one of my favourite filmmakers of the decade. I think it's kind of a lovely film for the first hour or so, but then it just gets so brutal, and will introduce you to scenes you'll never forget. And it's Bone Tomahawk, which again I don't think came on his list, but it's I mean, it's Kurt Russell and Richard Jenkins and Matthew Fox being fantastic actors, just interacting in really believable, and Patrick Wilson again, believable, great ways, and then sort of you kind of learn to love all of them, and then towards the end, they just end up in this horrible situation. I'm not a big Western fan, but this made me want to watch more Western films. If they're all like this, I haven't seen any, but I hope they're all absolutely brutal. They might be, but I mean, S. Craig Zada again introduced me to him, and also Brawn and Tablet 99 was one of my favourite movies of the decade. I would put it on this list, but it's not a horror movie, so it doesn't really belong. Bone Tomahawk.
I think that's a great choice. I think I didn't add it to my honourable mentions, but I think I will add it to my honourable mentions. Well, just say it's on my honourable mentions because it's got like some of the most sort of like your face just flinchy, cringy, horrible, horrific stuff, and it goes pretty.
This film and Green Room, I think they end up so far on my list, and the next one as well, because the violence really feels violent. Like a lot of films we watch nowadays, and we've seen a lot of stuff happen a lot, and somehow these directors have managed to work out how to really make us feel the pain again. That you just don't like to watch these people get hurt because you can tell it hurts.
Yeah, good choice.
Andy, I think you're back onto you with number 4.
Caught back up, yeah. So number 4, I'm gonna. I don't think anyone else is gonna have this, but I think it's a big name in the world of horror, and it's something that's got me invigorated for the genre again. And I'm going with a return to our favourite holiday, this Halloween, and Michael Myers coming back. Yeah. On reflection of this movie, I think we talked about it on the show, right, when it came out, and I think this is one that I've sort of mulled over as the time has passed. I'm incredibly excited for the next installment coming this year, and there are some fantastic moments in this movie as well. I think it owes a lot to the John Carpenter score, which is so iconic, and always absolutely gets you in the mood for a Halloween and a slasher movie. It's a subgenre of horror that I am particularly fond of, and there are some great constructed moments in it as well. I watched it again. Again, I'm doing a lot of flying recently. I was on another chuffing plane, and I think it might have been an extended version or something, because there were elements that I saw in this watching that either had passed me by or weren't in the cinema cut that I watched, and it made some of those pieces in the cinema, like it made the podcasting characters make a little bit more sense. And the thing that really struck me watching it again this time was the craft behind some of those scenes, and I think the moment that really sticks with me on this one was that scene where it's all shot through the windows of the houses, and you see him going in behind those people. And again, it's uniquely done. I didn't see it anywhere else in any other movies, and it's moments like that that make me think this is why this is the big horror slasher franchise, or one of the big ones that comes back for goodness knows how many iterations by this point, because there is just something about it. And there is an element to every single one that sets the trends that other franchises go on to follow. So I had to give Halloween a little tip of the hat with number 4.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's good to see that get in the list as well. Yeah,
good inclusion.
Ben, number 4. Oh, you did that. You said that one already.
Was that your number 4, Andy?
It was my number 4.
Okay, yeah. So my number 4 is It Follows. So
Okay.
we've already discussed. We've already discussed that. All right, not going to waste your time by talking about it again. What is number 4?
My number 4 is one that I was not expecting a huge amount from, but just because I enjoy the original so much, is the Evil Dead remake by Fede Alvarez.
Oh yeah.
Which again is brutal, absolutely brutal. I must have had a brutal decade, but it's just it has no right to be as good as it is, as palpably intense as it is, and I enjoy every choice they made, every moment of I don't know, like making the main sort of Ash type character, the guy, not the main character, making there a proper reason for them to be in the cabin in the woods, to get over the to go cold turkey. All these choices, and then I mean, how can you? And the bits of the needles going in the eye, and the bit, the raining blood moment, which I still refer to when I'm talking about like moments in films I really like. I call it now the raining blood moment, the bit where you think the film's done, it's had all it's done, said all it's wants to say, and then there's a moment where you think, oh, I could probably get my coat on now, get ready to go, and then it starts raining blood, and it's like, oh no, there's still some pretty crazy stuff to go on. It's just a great film, and I'm really excited because I saw some rumours about making another Evil Dead. I'm wondering where they can go with it now. But yeah, it's great. It's a fantastic remake. It was a fantastic movie even.
Another great choice, and another one that probably I would put on my honourable mentions as well, because I watched it recently. I watched it on Halloween actually, and I watched it with a group of people, and it's a great film to watch with a group of people because it is just, it never lets up.
Yeah.
It is relentless.
I also agree with everything you've said, Luke. So much so that it is my number 1.
Is it really?
For the decade.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoa!
Yeah, big number 1. Everything you said, like it is. There are so many moments that are incredibly brutal in that film. It is deeply unsettling, deeply frightening. You cringe in your seat when you're watching it. But then there are other moments that, you know, they still lean into the almost slapstick over the top element that Bruce Campbell used to bring into the original series as well. It definitely has love for the original, and there are so many subtle little nods to it as well, but it's completely its own thing. And like you, I would be thrilled to ribbons if they went back and did something like that. I know there was even rumours of them crossing the 2 over, right, and having this set of characters interact with Bruce Campbell at some point. I think
it would still work. It would still work, yeah. Cool. Wow, number 1. Okay, Ben, your number 3.
Well, do we not have to go now to Andy for number 3? Is that all right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm getting confused by the order as well, but
yeah, Andy, what's your number 3?
What's everyone's highest number so far? So right, I've got 3 and 2 left to go. So
so I've got
1. Yeah.
So I'll go for my number 3 then. So my number 3, leaning into that slightly sideways look at horror, that I am a big fan of. I think this is my favourite example of it. Much like the location of the Evil Dead, I've gone for Cabin in the Woods.
Nice.
Such a surprise. I think this is a great example of a studio actually doing trailers right, because I think going into this movie, I was expecting a fairly by the numbers straight horror movie, from everything I recall seeing. And
what were you expecting it to be? I was expecting like a Big Brother meets Evil Dead. Like there's security cameras and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a fairly straight horror movie. I think you see like indication of the force field or something. So you think there's some science element to it. But I was expecting a fairly straight-laced horror movie, maybe a little bit of technology behind the scenes. but whatever I was expecting when I walked into that cinema, it wasn't what happened, and I was delighted with what I got. Like the humor that's behind it, the just the richness of that world. I think there's been few films that I've spent, I don't know what the running time is, assume about 90 minutes, but there are a few films that I've got 90 minutes out of, and then there's so much about it that you just get that little kernel of like all those other locations and all the monsters that they don't get around to using. They just throw everything into it, even if it's only on screen in a tiny little box for a fraction of a second.
Yeah.
And you want to know more about all of it. I thought it was great, and the characters were genuinely likable. I find the dialogue was
Richard
smart.
Jenkins
It's
again.
very funny. Yeah.
Yeah. It's my number 2. Cabin in the Woods. Yeah.
This might be one that I probably would have had to add to my honourable mentions as well. Another one that I kind of maybe glossed over when I was thinking about my list, but I do like it. I like the payoff more than I like the rest of the film, though. I think, if that makes
The
Yeah,
payoff
the
makes this
end.
film, I think. Yeah, like
I love the
the last
payoff.
act.
I think the
Yeah.
payoff's insane. But I think, yeah, I do like it though. I do like it.
Cool. Your number 3, I guess, then, Ben.
Okay, so my number 3 is wait there.
Andy, was that your
Where's
number
my
3 or
list
number
gone?
2? Andy.
That was my number 3 because
Okay.
you had my number
Yeah.
1, so I've
Yeah,
just
yeah.
got my number 2 left.
Okay.
Okay, so my number 3 is the best zombie film of the decade, and one of my favorite zombie films ever is Train to Busan, which is a Korean zombies on a train masterpiece. It is just
So it says on the tin.
absolutely insane.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it says on the tin. I mean, it's nothing more than that. It is a great, great film. And you do really sort of like, you care about characters, you hate other characters. And there's some really ingenious ways that they sort of try and survive this outbreak. And it really is a great film. And again, another good film to watch with people because it is an absolute riot.
Yeah, that's a good choice. Good to get that one on here.
Are you subs or dubs, Ben, when you're watching this Korean cinema?
I'm subs. I can't do dubs. I find myself. That seems to distract me even more than subs.
If they're like rubber
When it's
lipped,
dubs.
they're just sort of
Yeah.
moving around the
Yeah.
words. It doesn't work. Yeah, I need.
I mean,
subs.
I can
Yeah.
I can definitely watch a dubbed one, but
Hmm.
I think something about subtitles is just a little bit more
Yeah.
enjoyable. But yeah,
Um,
it's great. It's a really really good film.
And it's nice to see, Ben, like that being such a thing. I think if anything, the tens or whatever we're officially calling them was probably a period of time when, by and large, we started to get a bit sick of zombies. He says as The Walking Dead was one of the most popular like comics and like
Yeah.
long running TV series. But I think I think a lot of horror fans began to get a bit bored with zombies in this period, but having that film still resonate with you so strongly, I think it's a great sign, and very worthwhile.
I
I've
think-
took a real train to Busan once, not as frightening, quite nice.
Good.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it didn't go this way. I think it's just back to basics. This film, it just goes back to basics where it doesn't try and put too many. A lot of zombie films and zombie series obviously try and the human characters have a lot of conflict and there's a lot of that stuff going on. There is the characters are interested in this, but it kind of just thrusts them into this sort of life or death situation, which I think is what makes it so insane.
It's a good one. Okay, so my number 3 is a film that I've always really thought was great. And then we reviewed it on here, and I was like, it wasn't just great, it's a fucking masterpiece. And that's Black Swan. Darren Aronofsky's Black Swan. It's his best film.
Oh yes.
It's so well made. And now I realise how great Natalie Portman's performance is. How sort of cathartic that ending shot is. How sort of weird, and it's the kind of horror that we don't really get too much of, where it's in their mind, sort of like psychological horror, really. But it's just so well put together. It's beautifully shot, weird, and all the scenes where she's like in Darren Aronofsky always does like weird little digital embellishments where it's like not a major part of the scene, but like if you look at one point, you'll see another Natalie Portman in a reflection, or in when she's dancing in the club, you'll see distorted versions of her dancing further distant in another part of the club. He's just a great filmmaker. Although I did watch The Fountain the other day, or the other week, and I wasn't exactly keen on that. But The Black Swan. I think he's won an Oscar, or Natalie Portman won an Oscar for this, or deservedly so. It's
I think that's right.
Yeah, I think this is the best film on my list in terms of the best made film, the best put together film, but it's not my personally favourite film. Cabin in the Woods ekes above it a little bit, and then my number one is like so my kind of film. I just can't wait to. It's probably the same as Ben's, I imagine.
Can't wait to talk about it.
But you're number 2 first, Andy. Oh no, go on, Ben.
I was just about to say I've included Black Swan in my honourable mentions because I think it was a film that I never really saw as a horror film for so long, and I guess when we did review it, then it was then that I became accustomed to it and thought, yes, it is a horror film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's maybe why I didn't include it in my list.
So, Andy, you've got your number 2 to go, right?
Yeah, and we can literally slam through this really quickly. We spoke about it last week. I've gone for Midsummer for my number 2. I feel like it might get booted for Hereditary.
Have you not watched Hereditary?
You guys have seen it.
Yeah.
I know. I think it may get booted for Hereditary because I think there's so much more classical horror in that. Picking a number 2 than talking about another film. Like I say, we talked about it last week. I think it really stuck with me because of the horror in absolute bright, unrelenting daylight, the efficiency of the filmmaking with some of those really clever cuts. I think the message behind it really, and some of the choices they made have really stuck with me on it. And I think it's just an incredibly well-made film that should be recognized for it. Again, my order here has been almost entirely arbitrary because I would watch a film like Midsummer far less frequently than I would watch Cabin in the Woods, which I could probably stick on any given evening. But I really do think that the construction behind it makes it worth that sort of high position in the list. But you need to say no more about that because I know we went on into depth on it. So I will eagerly await to hear your guys' number 1.
So,
Midsummer is also on my honourable mentions.
What have you got left to go, Ben? You got 3, 2, and 1.
So I've got 2 and 1. So my number 2.
What was your number 3?
It's Train to Busan.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm caught up. Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
So my number 2 is Hereditary, which obviously we've already discussed.
Right.
But I think the rewatch really solidified it for me as being like one of my favorites of the decade because, I had fond memories of watching it in the cinema, but then sometimes you think, is it going to be as good in the second time round? And for me, second time round, it was better. So
cool. Yeah.
So.
Well, my number 2 was Cabin in the Woods, so I've just got my number 1 to go.
So I've got my number 1 to go as well.
It's the big reveal.
Is Andy or spent? I think Andy spent his cards.
Yeah, and I spent mine with Evil Dead was my number 1. Shall I? If you guys suspect you might have the same, shall I count you down from 3 and you can both say it together?
Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If we get this right, this is it. Like
this 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
3,
2, 1.
Totally
and
in
then...
podcasting. Yeah. 3, 2, 1, and then right.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Kill list.
Oh!
I thought it would be. I mean, this film.
Shit.
Come on.
That's why we do a horror movie podcast together, Luke.
This
because we're just there. We're just there, aren't we? We did this on episode. Was it episode 2 of Horror Hangout?
Yeah. I mean, it's a. Not only is it a really interesting horror film, it's really fucking scary. It's really fucking weird. It's brutal as fuck. The characters are great and the relationship's great, and like the ending is fucking. Oh my god, you will not forget that ending. I mean, it introduced Ben Wheatley to us as well. I mean, to me anyway. It's just a fantastic film.
Hello, I'm Ben Wheatley. Here's some horrific. Here's someone getting their head caved in with a hammer.
Straw-faced
it is just.
Yeah, the straw mask. Yeah.
It's another film. These films that transcend genre are like they just really, really affect me in some way because, like, it's a sort of crime thriller. It's kind of a bit of it's a bit matey, two lads, two blokes, and it's just this weird, odd, unnerving undercurrent throughout that you're just, what the hell's going to happen? And then it just goes full like folk horror come the end.
Yeah,
and it's just like this. The mystery elements of it as well are just so icky. I think I'd say icky.
yeah. It's a great mystery that when they go to kill the priest and he says thank you, it's an honor. Like, such a good little mystery. Yeah, man, it's
I
great.
think like Neil Maskell, like, I know he's in loads of stuff, but I feel like he is a national treasure because
Michael Smiley's in fucking everything. Neil Maskell's not
Michael
got
Smiley.
as much
No,
play.
Neil
But
Maskell, when he says abracadabra after angrily pulling a tablecloth and ruining the dinner party for everybody, is probably one of my favourite cinematic moments.
Yeah.
Probably ever, because it's, it's just fucking ridiculous. But yeah, this film is a true horror movie for me because it is a horror movie in every sense because you're there for the ride.
Go on, sorry.
Go on.
I was going to say the only downside to this film is that Ben Wheatley hasn't hit these heights since. Like, he knocked it out of the park with this, and I think he's tried a few different things, which is great. But I'm looking forward to the next kill list that he does.
Yeah. So, yeah, I kind of went on I had a bit of a Ben Wheatley. I think I've seen most of his major releases. I think I've seen everything. Free Fire,
Yeah,
High Rise,
yeah,
Field in England,
Yeah.
Sightseers.
yeah. Seen Down Terrace.
I haven't seen his first film. I haven't seen Down Terrace, no.
It's good.
So that was the film before this, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I haven't. He's also directed a film called Happy New Year, Colin Burstead.
Oh yeah, I've not
which
seen
has
that.
also got Neil Maskell in it. And I've not seen that now. But yeah, I think it's a British film, so I feel the same with like 28 Days Later is probably like my horror film of the decade before that. And for me, it's when it's sort of set in England and it's got these sort of like gritty, legitimately English sensibilities with characters in it that are believable and settings that are believable. I think that really affects me because it feels like I could easily step out of my front door into these worlds.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes me sort of gravitate towards these films so much and think of them as actually legitimately terrifying. Whereas, you watch a horror film about a cabin in the woods in America and it feels so far removed from your real life that you're kind of like, well, yeah, it's terrifying, but
Yeah.
I don't feel like it can happen to me. But with this stuff, you're like, yeah.
Yeah, man, it's good. So, should we rack through some honourable mentions right quick?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Yeah.
The ones I have pulled out to mention were a couple of things that just I think of like are just uniquely made films, or perhaps don't get the attention they deserve. I was a big fan of Tucker and Dale versus Evil at the start of the decade, probably for similar reasons to things like Cabin in the Woods. It's just that lighter twist on those horror themes. It may have flown under the radar for a lot of people, but there are some fantastic horror moments in M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit.
Yeah, with a creepy woman under the house.
Under the house.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
That was a good moment.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And there's the Yahtzee scene as well, which is, of course, fantastic. The other ones I had were Unfriended, which I actually really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the pure, just all based on that, just all based on the desktop. It's a very interesting way of filmmaking. Luke, I know you've done a short that uses a cool aesthetic like that as well. So that was something I really enjoyed watching. Quite a unique take on it. And then I couldn't get away without mentioning, Ben, you know how much I love a killer animal film, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know what came out in 2010, the very start of the glorious decade, the tens, only Piranha 3D.
Ah, Alexander
Oh,
Aja.
yes.
Yeah.
That's the crawl. The before there was Crawl, there was Piranha 3D, and what a joyous film that was! Like all these like horror icons.
I've still not seen it.
Oh, you haven't, Luke.
Yeah.
Now I know. Now I know what film to pressure you that we need to do an episode about. Yeah. Again, just some little mentions. The last one I had here was a bit of found footage, As Above, So Below. Also, another film uniquely done. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, maybe not the best, but ones that have stuck with me and I've remembered over this decade.
Cool. Ben, you got some?
Yeah, so honourable mentions for me. Obviously, you've mentioned a few already, like stuff like Midsummer, Black Swan, Bone Tomahawk. I also had The Wailing, which I discussed last week, another Korean horror, which I think was really good. Suspiria remake I've put in there as well, because
certain moments in that.
Yeah, it was such a. I mean, it's a crazy experience, one that I'm probably going to have to witness again. So very, very different to the original, and I think it was sort of like masterfully done. I've also included What We Do in the Shadows. Obviously, yes, horror comedy, but I think it's just got so many like classic and recognizable horror tropes in it, and they're just turned on their head in such like hilarious ways. And I think it's a really enjoyable film. So
yeah, it's great.
I love that.
Fantastic.
Shit.
Cool. Honorable mentions to me, I've got The Conjuring, because you can't really talk about this decade of horror without The Conjuring influencing it in some way. And it's a great film. Sinister, because of the what do you call it? Like the little found footage segments within it are genuinely disturbing. As Above, So Below, I put that in here because when I watched it again recently, I was like, "This is a fantastic film." Let Me In. It's not going to be in my list because it's a remake. It's still great, but it's a remake of one of my favourite movies of all time. Let the right one in. Upgrade. That had no right to be as good as it was, and it's fantastic. A lot of fun. Mandy, for getting Nicolas Cage right. Annihilation, which is a great weird Alex Garland sci-fi horror movie. And that's it. That's all I got.
No mention of your boy Gaspar Noé.
Of Climax. I guess it should be really. I haven't really put anything from. I don't include anything from what I did in the last episode from 2019. Maybe it's too close. Maybe I need to give some space.
I was sort of conscious, with the exception of Midsummer. I didn't want to mention lots from 2019, not because it was a weaker year, but just because I'm conscious of like, I don't want to just have things I've seen recently.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, that's about it. Has anyone else got anything else they want to?
I just think it's good that we've included some very diverse lists in our top 10. They've all been very different, lots of different inclusions. Obviously, there's probably 3 or 4 that sort of went across all 3 lists. But
so
well
if
done,
I had
guys.
to do one word for each of our lists, for me it'd be like pain, like the brutal sort of side of it. Ben's would be Korean. Andy's would be
irregular.
Irregular,
yeah.
You know what else I've done, guys? Just as we've done a whole decade of this of movies that we've just gone through, I went back and it turns out I hadn't updated it for about 9 months, but I updated all of your guys' stats. Do you want to know if anything has ever toppled the 1940s yet for the best decade of movies?
He must have done, because we've done so many movies.
Yeah.
I'm afraid not. The 1940s is still, in terms of averages, the 1940s is still the best, because you only still have reviewed Cat People from the 1940s, so that's still the highest rated overall. You guys,
what did I give Cat People?
Cat People. Let me have a look for you, Ben. Let me have a little scroll and
sorry. I was wondering why mine must have been pretty high if it's still up there as well.
I think you did okay. It's just because there's no average to bring it down.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see what you mean.
If I bring this smallest to largest, so Cat People episode 6, Luke gave it an A- and you gave it a B, Ben.
There must have been a film we've given something more than that though.
Do you want to see your totals? Hang on then.
Yeah.
So over all the episodes that we've done here, officially speaking, your worst film with a total score of 2 that you both gave an F- to was Alone in the Dark, of course.
Rightly so.
Ouija performed slightly better with an F and an E-. So actually, I'll tell you what, I'll do the top 5. So your worst 5 films ever: Alone in the Dark, followed by Ouija, followed by The Unnamable, followed by 2019's Pet Sematary, and then Sleepwalkers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're your bottom. They're your bottom 5 in reverse order from worst to 5th, not quite as worse. If I go to the very top, so the best films you guys have ever rated are 2 perfect scores. The Fly and The Thing, both with perfects.
Yeah.
And then just below that, you've got Aliens that got got very high marks. You got 28 Days Later, Let the Right One In, as you mentioned, one of your favourites.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
And then everywhere in between.
Wowzers.
But in terms of the decades, we've done, I guess, because of with the top 50 list gone, and the fact that we focus on a lot more of the new films that come out, 2010s has had by far the highest number of films we've done. So across the board, we've done 2 films from the 1920s, 3 from the 30s, 1 from the 40s, 1 from the 50s, 6 from the 60s, 13 from the 70s, 17 from the 1980s, 16 from the 90s, 19 from the 2000s, and 38 films from the 2010s. So smashing out those 2010s. I know that from the Facebook there was talk of maybe heading back over Ben's Cliffs of Quality this year, right?
Yeah, we're doing one soon. I actually don't know when this one came out. I guess it must be 40s.
54, I believe.
Okay, yeah. Creature from the Black Lagoon. We got one that in plan. I think we should do a few more Universal movies. I'd like to do the Wolfman as well at some point.
The Wolfman.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. The Wolfman. Yeah, that'd be good. I'm up for that.
Yeah. So I guess back to normal next week. Have we got any plans for next week? Did you have one in mind?
I think we discussed maybe watching In Fabric.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm up for that.
Yeah. So we might do it In Fabric, and then after that, maybe go venture over the Cliff of Quality and see what we can find down there.
Cool.
Down in Ben's Valley of Despair. The Black Lagoon.
Exactly. I'm sure it'll be all right down there. Let's have a look.
Cool. All right. Okay. So, thanks to Kovac Camera for theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Thanks to the listeners. Please consider subscribing, giving us a review in iTunes, and hit subscribe, and going to Facebook and join the Facebook group Horror Hangout Board of Advisors. Plenty of cool people in there now. Thanks to Andy for joining us as regularly as you have done. It's always fun to have you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andy.
I'll continue to irregularly appear for as long as you guys keep inviting me. So be around. And then, looking forward to another year of you guys' fun horror takes, allowing me to get away with the films I never get around to watching. Yeah,
it's good to have a purpose in life. Cool.
Are we officially into the 3rd year of Horror Hangout now? Is that right?
It was like February or something we started, maybe late January.
Yeah.
So we're nearly there.
Yeah. So.
Cool. Thanks to my Ben for being a right or a dude.
Thanks, Luke.
Nice one.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.